are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
See how the trouble you've started?
Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio.
Civilization Cycle interviews experts and individuals who understand the intensifying cycle of economic, societal, and government upheaval, so you can stay ahead of the changes in our world and keep your family safe. Fortunately for us, we can recognize that we're at the precipice, a point in history where we can all see the cycle changing. Where we go from here is up to us. So let's start the conversation, and welcome to the show.
And welcome to this beautiful blue planet revitalized with energies. Think about the stark contrast of energies on the diametric opposites. A toroid looping field, a field-aligned current, those different currents, there are two of them wrapping, creating one. They're both more highly energized right now. Does the world feel a little different today? Because I was talking a little bit woo-woo at lunch with a group of people that were hemping a house, putting together the walls, and we were chatting for a minute there over lunch, and it's almost as if we've gone through history, things were given and they were taken away. On purpose, on a cycle. It's just chosen at this time in this place in the world, maybe countries, maybe kingdoms, fiefdoms, whatever they might have been, would have privilege for a time given to it, and then at a certain predetermined time, taken back. Now, we've seen this over the last few years in earnest, very cleanly, this wealth transfer going on. But for some reason, it just stopped as of yesterday. I don't know if people were just getting to the point of not having any hope and they already saw the society moving a different direction in the mind. Because I talked a bit about on the 24th of October that we were coming through a special area of space, magnetic field anomaly with the four gas giants perceived from our Earth making a square. And now suddenly after this, things seem just a little bit different of intensity, I guess is the best way to put it. But things are spinning, and you've noticed there's been a very stark turn happening right now. Like whatever it is, whether it's going to be new power generation sources that are going to be unveiled for us, or there's going to be, who knows, what kind of technologies will be released to take us to the next chapter of history. But something definitely turned on a dime right here, technology-wise and government overseership, otherwise known as managing farm Earth. The techniques are changing almost instantly, and this is where I wanted to go, but that's what I was saying. Maybe it's a little bit woo to start the hour, but Ransom Godwin joining me. And Ransom, thank you for joining. Love to hear your thoughts tonight. And everybody out there, we're still trying to get the live feed up for the audio or for the video. Just had a couple, snafus with the tech, and we're still trying to get it together for the live broadcast on all these different platforms at the same time. Ransom, what are we going to be rocking? 8 platforms, I think, including Vigilante TV, Rumble, etc. So, welcome to the show. Oh, you know what? I think I needed to add him in. I was just excited to talk. Ransom, wait, he's waving over there. Get me in the show. But the week seems like it's been, well, definitely an energetic experience for many. Like you get these weeks that seem like months plural of change. Just
right. Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Wrong headset.
See, that's what I'm saying, everybody. Thank you out there for the patience. We were just playing with these feeds coming into Skype just before the show to try to be able to bring you the audio tonight. We were both sitting in our chairs and we were going to talk like a live show, and then have people jump in with us here and answer questions and this sort of thing. We were going to do it, but again, you see what's happening with us trying to disconnect from that and come back into just it is what it is. We'll figure it out. So. Yeah.
Right. No, I was just gonna say,
Right,
if there was some kind of change in thinking, it seems to be reflecting on what's kind of going on. It seems like, at least for the U.S., we're going to be going in a new direction, hopefully positive. I don't put too much stock into politicians from the get-go, but that being said, there's a lot of promises being thrown around, and we'll see how many of those pan out. Just to be fair, judging from last time, you might get 25% of what you think is going to change as far as government dealings. Hopefully that means some changing situations as far as financially for a lot of people, namely homes opening up. One of the biggest benefits I see to without getting into detail, some of the plans of the new coming in administration, if that does happen, would be that a lot of homes are going to open up. There's going to be more homes available, which means prices of homes are going to go down.
But wait a second. But Larry Fink at BlackRock won't be getting the rent on the neighborhood, man.
Right. Well,
you're taking money from Larry Fink's pocket. You can't do that.
Seems BlackRock will be winning. They kind of win no matter who is in the pilot's chair there, so to speak. They're buying up everything, and that's still in the background. It's not just them specifically, but real estate companies, giant companies, like all kinds of people are in the real estate of the future game because they know that it's going to be hard to have private property in the future. And that's just simply for one, because of the course of time, more and more corporations get their hands on deeds, and it starts leaving families, traditional sense of how one would give their inherited wealth to the next generation. Part of that being usually somebody in the family would get a home, and it would continue to be in private ownership. Not so much now, and I get daily, probably 3 to 5 offers to mortgage my home so that I could have some money now, or there's other things that sell it and they'll let you stay in it for a period of time. There's all these deals out there to get you out of your home, but few of them are just like person to person gun sales. I mean home sales. That's still the way to go, person to person. And in that way, I think a lot of stuff is about to open up because we have a lot of extra people that might be moving soon. But I wouldn't count on it. I don't see how they're going to do what they're talking about. I guess we'll see. But as far as the switchover of people, mentalities kind of switching right over, at least in a measurable way through the election on November. And keep in mind that only 66 million people voted this time for Trump, which is actually, I think, less than last time. All around, there was probably, I think, 15 to 20 million less, if I'm correct, voters that came out, supposedly.
Well, that's a lot less. 15 million, that's a lot.
Right. You would think this would be bigger than last time, how it was being hyped up. But allegedly, less people voted this time than last time. And a lot of people are scratching their heads because this election aligns more along the lines of 2016 and some of the elections before that, before there was a oddity in the data. But I don't know what's going on. Are we going to go to World War III still? Because I have to remind people, there's a lot of people that still have a lot of power that's outside of the executive branch.
Yeah, it's just like you think one dude's going to get in and think, I'm curious about the Fed. You're talking about military. I'm talking about the Fed. So, two different giant things that we're both looking at going, this is supposed to end now, All right, good. Let's see what happens.
Actually, I had an article open somewhere here about the Fed chair. It says, no way am I stepping down or retiring. I don't care if I'm asked to or not. So
my private army will come in and make sure we stay in business.
right. So
we'll print you the money. We'll print you your salaries. It's all good.
That's one thing that we can, know as a people is the banks are still in control. There might be some, executive branch changes and that reside within that power. But that's kind of where I was getting at. The people that actually can finance, trigger, and decide about wars, they're not going anywhere. They're still in, the places that they were for the last 4 years and the last 8 years and the last 16 years. They're not going anywhere. Hopefully, though, we, the people, supposedly get this illusion of deciding that we're not going to do that. But even if you have a peacetime president, right?
The illusion. I love it. It is an illusion. It is. It's truly an illusion.
Well, like
seriously,
say you had the perfect guy in there.
I'm seeing through the code in front of me. You know what I mean? It's an illusion. It truly is an illusion.
Even if we had
choice, that's the craziest thing. And people would.
Your perfect Manchurian candidate was in there, and he was a peacetime guy. You could pick anybody. It's not really up to him if somebody supposedly attacks us in the theater of war. That person would have to respond. That's just how they've always done it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens in the next weeks. What I do expect is the empire to strike back. And what I mean by that is we haven't seen out-of-hand marches so much for the last 4 years, but I think we're about to start seeing that again. Matter of fact, if Chicago's any indication, there's already protests forming. Some of the old characters that we knew and loved between 2016 and 2020 are coming back to make their debut again. So it's like this constant battle of stability. Will we increase in jobs, and will the housing market really open up? There's still that group of people that wants to go down the Marxist totalitarian path while they call everyone else fascist. I mean, that's still there. That hasn't gone away.
Yeah, and I was going to take it back to 1830 myself, because I am wondering. Just walk through me, everybody, mind experiment here, just talking. And after I tell you my thing here, I have some numbers for you, because Ransom, you said the number of votes cast here. So let's say 1830 and you're out in the Wild West and you're actually moving westward and you're somewhere in Kansas or you're somewhere out like New Mexico, for example, and you're in a smaller town. A lot of cattle towns, et cetera, and farming towns sprung up. But when something would come in, like a large number of people that were a threat, like the town would get together. So I'm wondering what happened with the win here, because law and order's coming back. Because it was such a huge win, man, not a little bit, just like gigantically huge. Like that was better a choice than anything that was over there, man. Like the pendulum swung super as far as it could swing off before it drops off and goes to the ground here. So with that thought in mind that it's going to be law and order back in, would people start to stand up to all these hoodlums of the actual real regular people that are like, we are so tired of all this happening. This is BS, has been for years, but we're calling it out now. And then people are really starting to stand up and be like, no, this is going to stop now. The whole neighborhood's going to make you all stop, or the state or part of this. I wonder if people will stand up. Because if it was 50-50, I could see where that might be a viable. But with it swung so far over and gigantically voting with all that's like a message. It swept everything. That's a message. It's gone way too far. Now, something else is coming back in to try to restore whatever was common sense. I'm going to leave it at the door there. Just like live and just, you don't bother me, I won't bother you. Let everybody live, and common sense. Like, that world needs to come back. And it's so sad to say that two simple thoughts there of that. That should be the base construct of just reality itself, of where it builds from there. But you have to like explain it and wind it back to that base level. So if the foundation's been shaken off and you got to bring the foundation back in for the house before you can build it back out, damn, kind of damage was done. Jeez. Oh, and yeah, the reason I was saying that is just think about 1830. Are people going to defend their towns and be like, you know what, you cattle rustlers need to go elsewhere? You know, that kind of thing. Just curious. And okay, here's your numbers, Ransom. So you were saying 15 million, and in 2020 it was 155 million total votes, and so that would be like 10%. That's a huge number. That's 15 million. That's 10% of that number. So this year, 129 million. 2016, 128 million, almost 129 million. So about nearly equivalent for 2016. I mean, really, just we'll call it evenly 129 million both for 2016. And then you get this giant one in 2020 that says 155 million. The other ones were way low, like 121 million votes for 2004, 129 million votes for 2008, 126 million for 2012. 2016, then it jumps because everybody's like, hey, you know, 128. It didn't even jump that much, like 2 million up from, you know, 126, 128, and then 2024, 129. So you need like all those for those last 5 years have been in that 120 million range, all 5 of those. And then suddenly, boom, there's this one last time, 2020, that has 155 million. That's an enormous amount more than the average. That's like 35 million more than average. So I thought I would bore you with the numbers. So there's my chalkboard talk for the night, everybody. Finish with that. Ransom.
I wonder what happened, why all those extra people didn't want to vote this time.
I don't know. It's baffling, man, because it's such a utopia, and unrealized capital gains is the way to go, man. That's the only way to go, right, in the utopia.
You think it's because everybody was paying attention a little more this time, and maybe it's also because last time we were under the pandemic, stay at home, don't go anywhere, mail everything, let the government do it, just stay in your house, in your little cell that you have, and just stay in there. Because, you know, New Mexico was one of the worst states to be in if you listen to the government, right? They told us, stay in your house, don't travel, and, you know, we're going to cut all the stores from 24 hours down to half that. Everybody's going to have to close their shops, you know, because they can only have so many people in them and all of that stuff. So all of the mom and pop's gone. Walmart, all of those places, they do not even stay open anymore. So, like, you know, I was one of those fans of waiting till everybody was sleeping to go to one of those.
Oh, that was
stores.
The best time, man, when nobody's around. I always dislike going in when it's super packed, man.
Right. Now I go in there, and now I can't do that. So I have to compete with what's going on in the daytime. But it was
you get the rugby helmet on, man. You got to jump through the aisles. Give me that last bottle of water.
Right. Well, yeah, we do reverse osmosis here. And what's weird is there's been a lot of flooding. And we're about to have a blizzard all over the state now. And it's just hitting the same areas. And what's funny is right now, all of the dispensaries that normally feed water out everywhere are out. And I don't know what's going on with that. But we were actually looking for clean reverse osmosis water today. And you would have no choice but to go to a store to get that today, because we can't drink our water here, even though they say it's safe.
Yeah, but most people can't anywhere. That's the problem.
Yeah, and you would have to do a whole process to clean it back. You know, after the city cleaned it, you'd have to re-clean it again to get all of the what's called caliche out of it, which is like a really strong mineral content, plus the chlorine and the fluorosilicic acid or whatever, hydrofluorosilicic. I can't even say it. That uranium waste and concrete waste that they can't dump in the ocean, and they can't dump it in a lake, and they can't dump it in the river, but your local municipality buys it and puts it in the water. so you can have good teeth and everything. But now that our federal government
that is
admitted
the best, man. Sounds yummy to me. I'll take 2 glasses.
Right. Well, they've kind of come around and finally admitted that, well, maybe it does make you a little dumber. It might be responsible for some bone cancers and stuff like that, but for sure, it's going to lower your kid's IQ. But that's okay, because that's for the greater good of everyone. Is if people think a little bit less, evidently, and then you look
that doesn't make sense. I got Dame Bramage. What are you talking about, Dame Bramage? I didn't understand that. Why is less IQ better for the world? I don't know. Like, please explain to me in a common sense fashion. Like, as things are getting more advanced, that we need to work in more coordination because everything is in a much faster, world. Like that, a lower IQ fitting into that's a good thing. Like, explain that to me.
Well, there was this group of socialist people in the 40s and 30s that experimented with it, and it's where everybody else kind of got the data that they use today. And they realized if you put too much, people get way too lethargic and they won't do anything. But if there's not enough, then they start questioning stuff and might rebel against you, in your concentrated communities. So instead of doing that, they just put in the water supply. So everybody's just a little more lethargic and confused, evidently. But it was all on accident. Also, the fact that, the EPA would violate them and charge them, big fines if they got caught dumping that same material out in nature. But evidently humans are pretty good filters. And, another shift in thinking is, here's this nice article, to shift gears a little bit from the dirty water and food. This is on Zero Hedge. TV exec tells CNN Brian Stelter that the inconvenient now truth is not, global warming, but it's that the mainstream media is dead in its current form now, because basically they check the numbers. Nobody, and I want to tell you my experience on election night, because
me too. I want to tell you mine. Not now, but you go first.
I had all the feeds open. So I had all the internet feeds. I had, everybody from the far left to the far right open on my browser tab. I had the TV going, flipping through the channels as well. And all night, I noticed that all the networks, including, some of the more supposedly alternative right networks, were all sticking to the same exact, what goings on about the progress of things. But there's a new company called News Nation that is on the WB if you have antenna, and it's starting to be big on the internet. And this is a very strange company, because if you remember over the last 8 years, there's been a lot of hardcore right, Mockingbird type journalists and hardcore left Mockingbird journalists that have been fired supposedly from their networks. And they all got together and they went and they started a job at the News Nation, and that thing had Trump beating the other candidate 2 hours before everyone else. They were changing the electoral vote numbers, so they hit 270, and it took everyone else that admitted it on the same night, which was only, I think, Fox and one other channel. They took 2 hours after them to admit it, and then at that time, the WB in New Mexico cut that news feed. They just cut it off. It was gone. And then the Fox news feed got cut off of the Fox channels. And somebody had like a third-party ticker at the bottom that was giving like the state breakdowns. And they just cut us off from the national. So you had to flip over to the leftist-leaning ones like NBC, ABC, CBS. And they had the numbers like from 3 hours ago, and they were sitting there debating about what's going on, and we're not calling it, and we don't know. It seemed like to me that they were waiting for a big surprise late in the night that never came. And I think the reason for that is so many people were out paying attention. They were on all the feeds, but it was weird. So I went to sleep, and I woke up, the BBC was still talking about that they hadn't called it, even though that new, and I think what the trip is with this new news source is they're going to be very, and according to their commercials, non-biased, no agenda, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to be the number one news giver here shortly because everybody's lost faith in the other ones, and then they'll start their Operation Mockingbird stuff. Once they get about a year into people really starting to trust them as a feed, because no one can argue that they were at least 2.5 hours ahead of everybody calling the race with the real electoral vote numbers, and they were very confident. And we're talking about some pretty big names in both supposed right and left groups. Like you had Chris Como as one of the hosts. You know, he got fired from CNN. And then you had Spicer, which is Trump's ex, the press secretary, and he was on there, and they were just all talking, friendly. For years, they've been kind of bad-mouthing of each other and separate, but they were all on the same network. That's a new news network that they just put together, and they're just, it's like a psyop I was watching in real time last night, or not last night, but on the night of the election, where all of the mainstream media people were basically discredited right in front of everyone for everyone to watch. And it's really weird how everything's now changing direction. So I would watch out for rebranding and keep track of the same people that worked at other places, because everybody's about to readjust. There's a whole shift happening, not only in media, but as far as public opinion on the street. Like where I live, it's a pretty dominant red area. And matter of fact, they went red, but our state went left. They voted left for every single politician, and almost everything stayed the same ratio, no upsets. However, those same people supposedly on the national level were voting in the complete opposite way. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on still in 4 states that's kind of unexplainable. And I think it's all going to be panned out, and there's going to be a lot of drama coming our way, because let's not forget, they've been starting drama and it's been building up. So there's going to be a calm, which is probably this November, right before things get wonky around Christmas, New Year's, and right before January 6th.
Well, the whole sweep that was so big, though, a message was sent across like, the country's kind of done with it all, and things are going to change, and it's going to be different now. Just like that. That was the message. It's going to be different now, directly that way. And you know what also is going to be different is social media to campaign. You hit the nail on the head on a couple issues there. Like what we saw, this clunky old, sit down on NBC for an edited interview kind of thing, and it would come out a week later. That doesn't fly anymore, because everything was won on giant social media podcast live channels like Civilization Cycle here, trying to bring you, as we work with the tech, to get our cameras live so we can have people sit with us and have those same conversations, or have them face to face. You can see us talking and actually looking at the material and discussing it. That's where the new world of campaign will be from now on. There's no denying it anymore. There was such a huge shift. Like the more residents, the long-term and the long-time content to be able to get to know somebody. And that was the whole thing, was these podcasts were geared to get to know the person, because there's so many labels thrown on the person. And okay, whatever label from everywhere you're getting. Anybody who's running for office got geared to get to know them, right? But if you were able to sit so many down labels for several hours person, with any of these whatever label from everywhere you're getting, anybody who's geared to get to know 10 million downloads. But if you were able to sit so many labels for several hours with any of these whatever labels from everywhere you're getting, anybody who's geared to get to know 10 million downloads, and be able to sit down. But if you were able to sit down labels for several hours with any of these whatever labels from everywhere you're getting, anybody who's geared to get to know 10 million downloads, and be able to sit down. But if you were able to sit down labels for several hours with any of these whatever labels from everywhere you're getting, anybody got ricocheted, like a 10.0 earthquake just came through the whole media space during that time. Not only the discrediting of all these, I don't even know what to call them anymore. Just I'm looking for a good descriptor, It's like purposeful, sidestepping for issues so you don't see them, or purposeful kind of bouncing it off to obfuscate it and turn it into a gray area, or just downright delaying information coming out, like on purpose, and in all 3 of those arenas. But the social media space, boom, you could talk to who you want to anytime, and everybody can be on, and you see the person for they are. And I wanted to respond also. I'm hoping everybody out there also Because I was watching the Bloomberg feed, and you said you were watching BBC, and also I was tuned into Timcast, where we went up to Tim Pool's studio, and thank you, Tim, for again allowing us to come up and give our views on why we think extremes on the planet in terms of climate and society are happening right now, along with food pricing. So I was jumping between like Timcast and Patrick Bet David, those two predominantly. But then I was jumping off too onto the Young Turks, and damn, where else did I end up? Charlie Kirk and all that. There was a whole bunch of lives going on at the same time. So I was just jumping between them and wherever I landed to see. And I can't even remember, there were so many, but I would refocus back pretty much on the PBD podcast and Timcast also, because Tim was going through there live. But here was the thing. And then I also was on Fox News on the broadcast. They only had 21,000 people watching live on the Fox broadcast. Like, for example, Patrick Bet David and Timcast both had over 200,000 continuously. And I remember even one time seeing the PBD up at like 260,000 people watching. But like Fox News on an election night could only garner 21,000 people. That's 10 times less than an individual podcast that's out there. You see, the entire media space has changed. It's completely changed. We saw a fracturing of what was for an old world. Because when I was having lunch today, I was discussing the same thing with people around the table. They were building a hemp house. So I got invited up because they were mixing today, putting the lime in and getting the walls tamped down. So I went up to do some video, ask a bunch of questions. Really cool people, man. Very knowledgeable, super good energy, just like very solid crew, and awesome to be up there today. Like really super grateful. And we're talking about some of these things also in history. Like you get the demarcation point where something, instantly you stepped into a new world. We've had that through history many a time where one thing changes and then instantly another arises. Well, you just saw something go in almost instant time that it was, for a better term, broke the hologram with how quickly it morphed and how all-encompassing the morph is and was in that instant pivot. Like it sent a shockwave through the ether of what was like a solid foundation just got cracked everywhere. I kid you not. The gargantuan, earth-shattering understanding of how social media is now the space to do anything, specifically politics. Now all the politicians and all these people that are looking and all these lobbyists are going, hey, we can get you on social media. That's a huge, and everybody suddenly pivoted and saw, wow, that social media thing worked. So I'm just wondering, with the overwhelming amount of votes going toward Trump, what does that mean for people's mentality of like, you might think there'd be shenanigans, but people are just going to, before they would cower away because I'm going to be called this, I'm going to be called that. I can't stand up for this. I can't protect this person. Oh, I got to run away because I could be called or I could be caught, or like, with the so many, like I say, just call them shenanigans. We've all seen the stories through the last umpteen years of leniency on different things going on. Like when I was growing up as a kid, that just was not put up with at all, like none. Like on law-breaking things, like it just, where did it come down to? That was, they would actually arrest you for something, to now it's not even. Like how does that slide down the scale also? Something before that was definitely 100% of the time you would be arrested. And then now it's just like, you don't even get a warning. They don't even take your ID, and they just walk you around the block and let you go. Like what? There's a shift. The shift is here again. And I'm just wondering, people knowing that, I'm just saying, I'm trying to draw the example here. People knowing that it's going that direction. We're going to rewind the clock on a lot of stuff into what's acceptable and what's not acceptable any longer under law. Not code, not statute, law. And we're going to wind it back to that point right now. And people knowing that we're going that direction and that energy is moving that direction, and there will be some forcefulness behind those moves, that they might start standing up to some of this silliness that is occurring, has been planned to happen, or is organically rising. I don't know. But anyway, there's going to be a lot more people with a lot more courage to push back because the society has voted and shifted that way. It's time to change it. So whatever it was of the old world is now not there any longer. So that, I guess, protection that it's hard to explain. Like what things that got away with, like that's absurd. When I was a kid, like you compare my life to now, it's really, you know, I could understand why the old people were always so grumpy, man. I get it. Hopefully I'm not one of those grumpy old people, but I totally understand. Because if I have to live another 15 years under, you know, or 20 more years, I remember when we used to travel and we only had Lonely Planet books, man. Now you got to get a social credit score before, and I got to wait 3 years for a short haul flight. Remember that? No, I could fly wherever I wanted, and this is the new world. I don't want to get stuck where I can only fly once every 3 years on a short haul flight, buy 3 changes of clothes throughout the entire year, and, you know, not be able to heat my house or something ridiculous, turn off my heat half the time like they want to do in the UK. For what? No, thank you. We're done with that. Done. And I'm saying the same thing with the green movement is done-ish. I've got to put a hyphen there, ish. Because the wealth transfer that's gone on under that guise, a lot of that, so we say, milking of that genre, that's going to cease. But the real projects that are in there that can bring forth different energy production systems, devices, Earth's magnetic field power generation devices, anything like this that could arise from that, more efficient solar that really does work where you don't have to repair it. It's durable. If it's hit by hail, it doesn't break. It has like a 100-year usage on it, not 20, not 10, 100-year usage on it. Can't shatter it. I don't care, because they got all kind of glasses where you can't break them. Like, you got to be incredible efficiency and unbreakable and a 100-year guarantee on it. Right. And that's where you need to move to with this stuff. Not like, oh, a pea-sized hail fell on it and we have to replace the whole panel. Sorry, we can't recycle the silver out of it because the tech's not good enough to recycle and claim back not even near 100% of silver out of a solar panel. Impossible. So there's always losses in the solar panels of silver. Like, you're never getting it back. I guess eventually if the tech catches up one day where it's cheap enough to go find all these broken solar panels and throw them through their processing, whatever that would be. But until now, yeah, man, the green thing's going to stop-ish. Yeah, there's just going to be so many changes. And I think, again, the whole world was feeling the same thing. Not just here. It's a shift of an age. The sun's magnetic field is changing, and obviously we're coming into and have, I think, already gone through solar maximum, or at that point right now. There's another another X2 flare here today. I had it up on my browser. 1345 UTC, and that'd be 5 hours behind here in the U.S. on Eastern Coast Standard Time, so minus 5 hours from that one. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8 a.m. Very visible X flare, and that should be arriving. We should get some aurora from that. It's Earth facing. So I was going somewhere with that, Ransom, and you know me, man, I ramble sometimes, so take it back, please. Get this microphone away from me.
You know that you were talking about how social media, you know, basically, I'm going to say 10 years now, has been in a fight with mainstream media about who can report what, when, and what they say. And it seems like, you know, there's certain places that realize that battle is over. That battle is over. And now you have only social media. And now they're starting to put laws where the youngest of people will no longer be able to access that, which is basically the first steps in censoring adults. I forgot where it was. It was in Europe. I'll find the article again. But they were basically saying that people 16 and under cannot access the social media networks anymore. And
I saw that. Is that true? Really? Is that true? I saw something out of Australia. Is that right?
I think they're going to be going that way everywhere. And this is to solve.
No, really?
They're trying to solve a couple of things. But I think the root reason is because they don't want young people who are about to get into the system to learn certain things early in their life. Like going back to when we were kids, some things you just had to figure out when you became an adult, and you figured out some things that you were taught were kind of BS, or that's not actually how it works, or they just left out part of the story, or you were victim to a propaganda because of whoever you were around or which books you read first. Now it's different, because now you can instantly look at both sides of something. Whenever you see a news report, you can go find out who the original poster is, the original person is, and verify and fact check that within seconds, just as fast or even faster than any of these network, supposed fact checkers that work for the different social media companies. And so now that there's being, rulings against the censorship of adults, I think the next phase is to make sure that, they have all children lock in step. And a good example of how that works is you control all the media that they see as a child, because it's deemed safe for one reason or another. And this goes back and forth in different ways depending on who's in charge of what, because, in recent years we've had story time and certain content that a lot of people don't want their young people to watch. But at the same time, you don't want them learning, BS from the beginning. So my kid, who's 3 years old, has watched enough cartoons to figure out that, that humans trash the planet. Humans trash the planet. And, a lot of strangers are bad because they throw trash on the ground. And, that's not a bad concept to understand. But at the same time, that what goes along with that is fairy tales about man-made climate change just mushed in there. So you get a whole kid that's like 10 years old, and he or she has already been hammered with certain propaganda messages over and over again, year in and year out. And then if they go
mushed
to public
in
schools,
there, right? Like,
yeah, and then they go to public school and they get a mirrored version of that depending on who's in charge of the education. And it seems like no matter which way it goes, they always inject things that are inappropriate for children. So I wouldn't agree with any system that supposedly is going to save or protect children by not allowing them to be educated young adults by the time they get there. I do agree there's certain aspects of the internet that should be age limited, just like we do anything like tobacco or alcohol or something like that, or the websites out there we don't want them to look at that have adult material or content. But that's not the same thing as being able to form your own political opinion by the time you get of age to, say, if you live in the United States, to vote. And that's a major problem.
Ransom, is this a Dark Mirror episode you're describing to me?
No, that's just the way it's been. But now it's going to go ultra technological. In the name of safety. Every single
safety,
right,
keep me
it's
safe.
always
I need it.
about
Help.
keeping us safe. And that's how they run everything. So look for that to expand. And I wanted to show you guys this article. I don't know I know a lot of the audience probably has heard my short story, The Idiot Code, which is about people depending on the internet so much that they just kind of rename it God, the ultimate guide of data there. And now, just kind of as a prediction, now we're seeing that churches, and I joke with you not, churches and other people are now moving over to AI. So AI will now literally be the priests and the source of millions for spirituality and things like that. I seem to lose the article every time I'm talking about it, but I'll find it there when you respond to that. One thing that's not disappearing, no matter how you voted, is the shift of AI to control everything. And as far as I know, Trump is a big fan of that, and his buddy Elon Musk. And although they present it in a more friendly way than, say, the other weirdos at the WEF who want to just, get under your skin and program your body, not my words, theirs, you have this other less aggressive people saying, but you could, people that can't walk can walk again. If you got mental problems, we can help you with that. And you can have instant access to the Internet of Things. And if there are studies out that say that tablets and phones rewire a 2-year-old's brain to think different than those children before they had access to that. What do you think happens when we have instant connection to internet that is now censored and focused in certain propaganda areas about different topics? Because you can go on right now, anything we say, if we went on a major show, would be instantly fact checked. Like if I said all of the hominids that existed before Homo sapiens sapien lived in much warmer times that had much more CO2 and they flourished, I would get fact checked and they would instantly say that's a lie. There's man-made climate change and that I'm just a fact-denying weirdo. But they won't go past 100 years to look at any facts. And it's starting to be that way politically and intellectually, scientifically, in all the arenas of thought. They don't want children going back but a few decades to whenever. And think about in a few decades from now, after this fact-checking censorship nightmare gets its foothold all the way in, and we're all used to it incrementally, the children will just think that's the way it is. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys noticed, but when you go to Google with either your phone, whether it's an Android, Apple, or you're using a PC, guess what comes up on all your searches now? An AI overview of what you're looking for, plus some encoded fact checks and biases based on whoever programs that. So, we're going into that. And like, I just wrote that story, and they're already doing kind of part of what was in the story as far as turning over your spirituality and your answers for the universe totally to the artificial
And Ransom seemed to have dropped off right there.
intelligence.
Ransom?
No, I was just finished.
Oh, okay, great. I didn't. I'll go with that.
Sentence.
Berkshire Hathaway cash pile swells. Let them consume and decide on their own programming. Like, it seems like it's everywhere. And, some things, this is the whole thing that you hit on there too. The agenda moves forward while you're distracted with all these things. Because, see, I was trying to explain the same thing about in American politics, every 4 years it changes. So the 4 years, things get a little bit stable, and then somebody can come in and undo everything of 4 years of the people before them and, put in all new people. And then, it takes a year or so to get sort of efficient again, and then 2 years to do something. And it's just the way it's done these 4 years. It seems that it's a transfer of this same agenda that moves through whatever party. It doesn't matter what it is or what it was. And that's the whole thing. It doesn't matter if you're going to stop central bank digital currencies or try to. That's the whole way the world's moving forward. The digital IDs, they're all moving forward with the central bank digital currencies. And now you got the BRICS and the BRICS Pay running 2 independent payment systems for cross-border payment. And you got gold-backed currencies evolving, silver-backed currencies evolving. Like the movement of this new world that we're being directed to, we're being put through like a thought funnel of the full agenda continues. This whole change of the world literally continues in earnest, the direction it's going, just as much as like running electrical lines through an area in 1910 and 1920 in the mountains. People didn't want that either. They fought. They had to bring the army in to get the government to be able to tell the state government to be able to put the lines in, like the 1919, 1921, these sort of thing. They just did not want the electric lines going through here. But again, the entire, even if you didn't, the electrification of the planet continued, and it's the same thing. I don't know what it is about everything needs to go digital so quickly and suddenly, except maybe the vibration frequency of the sun itself, and we as the earth matching that creates a different state of how we process information. So the governance structure of the planet needs to change as the frequency of the sun is changing also, which would affect our magnetic field. And the magnetic field is the hemispheres of your brain that are electrically connected. If that magnetic field state changes, And they've done million experiment. You know, they put high energy into your brain, and you know, and they can change people's feelings. So think about it on a planetary scale. If that sort of thing and different types of euphoria or that's fright or whatever it is because a magnetic field, an intensified field put on a portion of the brain. Think about that. Now the whole entire system is changing, our sun and the earth. So what happens? Obviously the government, the structure, the economy, it can't stay the same. We're moving into a different field. Now, I shouldn't even say field. It's we're moving into a different way humans process information, because the energy in the magnetic field that allows their brains to move and stay and grasp and interact with this reality, that magnetic field is going to make that interaction different levels that were not previously there before. Some pathways will close, others will open. And then suddenly the way you perceive reality is different. So imagine global governance structure needs to change that matching magnetic field pattern. So as we see these rapid, almost like kick you off the side of a cliff kind of moves and pushes to get everybody over the goal line over there, they're on a timeline, celestial timeline. And where do we sit in that with this gargantuan change that just occurred? Central bank digital CBDCs are going forward. Digital IDs are moving forward. Tokenization of all assets on the planet, that's moving forward. The carbon credit registry and also on the blockchain is all moving forward. Like all these things are moving forward. Now, how much of a change could this overwhelming victory saying we need to move the needle back again? It's just getting too crazy right now. Will this sweep the planet enough to stop some of these things from happening is the question. I think on a greater question versus just here in the U.S. Because these agenda, like you say, it's going to keep marching forward. That's what stays the same. All the other things around it, politics is the entertainment arm. So I'll leave it there.
I think they're going to give us some theater of war entertainment here. I mean, you have, I don't know if you've been paying attention to Germany, but Germany's been riding both sides of the NATO-Russia fence, doing deals on one side for money and stuff, and then also supplying weapons to the other side. And now they've decided, among other nations, that they're going to enforce their national service. So people 18 years and old that are from Germany will have to, go to the army. How about that? And they'll have to, when you go to the army, I actually think that it's not a bad idea that young people give their nation a little bit of their time, but not for random wars. But if that's what's going on whenever it's your turn, you kind of get thrown in that. Kind of what I argue about is their whole, when you go into the services, you have to take all of their medications, right? You have to take all the medications.
Well, same thing's happening over in Spain, in Valencia. The same thing that happened in North Carolina. They're denying supplies going in there now too, into Valencia.
Well, what I meant is that so you're an American. You whether you got drafted or not, you have to go to basic training. When you go to basic training, they make sure that you could travel wherever you want by giving you a bunch of intravenous
freebies.
Medicine.
Let's just call them freebies.
Yeah, freebies. Well, the same thing's going to happen to the German people. They're rounding up now all of their 18-year-olds, all of them. So all of the ones that will get their new medications and freebies along with their national service. So I wonder how many nations are going to go over to this idea. And then, a lot of people are talking about the Chinese Navy there appearing to gear up to invade someone somewhere. We have no idea who, though,
Yeah, and again, I'm wondering, will that put that off for a couple of years too, or not? Or is it all an illusion that was going to happen, and that was just used as a pivot stone to say that we need to have more of this, that, or the other? That budget needs to be allocated for that, for this, that, or the other. That has to be you need that as an integral part of it. Has to be there. Nothing, like Taiwanese are very, very, very saying that nothing's going to happen, man. Nothing, never happened, never going to happen. It's all a charade. But the way you look from outside into there, you're like, well, it's not a charade. Or is it? Are they both sides in on it? Everybody needs to give this like charade, like not even a stalemate, but just the play continues because everybody benefits from it.
If both sides start to have supply chain issues, all they have to do is roll out there and shoot at each other a couple of times and no real battle happening. But say that because, this or that, the whole South China Sea is off limits for, trading. And then you have everybody switching over to one, type of monetary system over the other. And, our dollar just surged, so they're kind of freaking out on the other end, which I imagine will come back. And plus, you have all of these same people in charge of this stuff that could get any number of these conflicts started, and it won't matter what the executive branch wants to do. They'll be forced to do something.
Yeah, it won't be the second Midway Island battle, which they trotted in the news. It'll be from Tinian Island. Because I did a video on this probably 5-6 months ago. Tinian Island, they're clearing off the runway there because that's where the Enola Gay launched from. So the old runways from World War II are still there. So they're clearing them off. And imagine being those people that lived on the end of the island. Had nobody been there since 1945, 1946. And now they're coming back on, it's American territory. We need to be able to clear off. And they are starting to get the runways all clear again to run. So I would say this time it would not be Midway, but it would be Tinian Island. Close enough. They're both in the Pacific. But you know what I mean? It's going to be something like that.
It's unknown if early man knew they would be the progenitors of great civilizations, or if they knew when their empires would fall and disappear into history. Fortunately for us as modern man, we can recognize that we are at the precipice, a point in history where we can see the cycle changing. Where we go from here is up to us.
How do you feed your families when the shelves are empty, the stores are shut, and there's no food available? What is the fastest, easiest, and most productive foods to grow? What is the quickest way to get somebody who has no skills at all up and running and producing very quickly? If you understand that we're at a point in history where it is no longer optional to be growing your own food, if you're like really freaked out and concerned because you've never grown food before and you don't have any skills, you don't know how to do that, but you know how important it is, then I want to let you know, however you stumbled here, you're in the right place. My name is Marjorie Wildcraft. I'm the founder of the Grow Network, and I have been the female leader in the survival and preparedness space for the last 20 years.
How to grow lots of food, even if you have no experience, are older and out of shape. This is for people who want the fastest and easiest ways to produce healthy and delicious meat, eggs, and vegetables. Because you know that growing your own food is like printing your own money. During this webinar, you will get status of global food shortages, how long the crisis will last, how much space you need to grow food, easiest, highest calorie foods you can produce, a complete plan for producing all the food you need, how to get started today, regardless of season. Marjorie will show you the fastest, easiest, and simplest ways to produce calories and nutrition, especially in a crisis and/or grid-down situation. The assumption is that you have no experience and you need to start producing food immediately. The most popular part of the webinar is the Q&A session at the end. So please come prepared with your questions.
Pro Clear Cleanse is the most powerful spray cleaner on the market today. No elbow grease necessary. Pro Clear Cleanse cuts through grease and grime like a chef's knife. Finally, the one cleaner that can do it all. Powerful surfactant cleaning technology cleans ovens, glass, porcelain, even polished wood. Environmentally friendly, less packaging and waste with no harsh smells, pet safe, child safe. 5 tablets equals 1 bottle of traditional cleaner. It's 5 months of cleaning for a fraction of the cost. Behold the grease-erasing power of Odor Crush. Simply drop a tablet into your bottle of warm water and shake it so it is evenly diluted. Spray the surface you want cleaned. Let set longer for tougher grease. Take a paper towel or a reusable cloth and wipe. Done and done.
Howdy, partner. You know people are having dinner and the smart ones are eating beef. Let me tell you a brief history, or more accurately, a beef history of dinner. Domestication of cattle happened around 8000 BC, but that's not when beef became what's for dinner. We've been eating beef since times before history. The earliest cave paintings have beef eloquently depicted on the walls. Those cave drawings of the hunt were for the aurochs, a primitive bovine. That's right, Beef. Like I said, people are having dinner now. And the smart ones, well, they're eating beef. Americans want great food today. But we also want to have great food to eat if things go south in a hurry. Unlike most companies that take the cheapest, worst parts of the cow, then turn them into beef crumbles, whatever that is. They freeze dry them in hopes that their customers will never actually try to eat it. Our premium beef cubes are sous vide, freeze dried, and ready to be eaten right now, or in a decade from now. We want you to eat our beef now, so you can buy more. Prep with steaks, not with beef crumbles. This is a high-quality product. It's all American beef and 100% natural. None of that craziness of lab-grown meat and mRNA jabs. Our beef has a shelf life of 10+ years. This is high-quality cooked and freeze-dried beef for long-term storage or not. Eat well today and eat well tomorrow. Click the link in the description to get your Prepper beef with Prepper All Naturals, so you will always know what's for dinner.
Now that you got 4 more years of opportunity across the planet, this shift that just occurred. We just reached past solar maximum also, or in it right now. So whatever transition of energy that might be that would occur at solar maximum is unknown, although you could follow the barycenter and maybe find out that gravitational center of our solar system, how that is off center of the sun, except every so often it comes back right into the center of the sun about every 100 years. 2030 is the next time that occurs. Revolution Radio, thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. And for everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us. We're trying to bring it to you live, bringing on the video as we get it next week. And also, please remember civilizationcycle.com. Put your name in the email browser bar there, and we'll get you the show notes. Just real simple name. Thanks for signing up. Because I know it's a good way to have a written format of some of the topics we talked about, because these discussions now are like super accessible for a lot of people. And if you have a bullet point written list of, all right, well, this is what these guys were talking about last time. And they're written out, and you could just do your own reference or even have conversation starters. Because I would imagine a lot of people are thinking a very different way right now. Not just because of this election, but I'm telling you, there's a discernible feeling of difference in the extremes. The storms are just off the hook. Everything's once in a 1,000-year event happening now, all the time. That's the new norm. 500, once in 500 year, once in a 1,000-year event. That's the baseline now. In addition to all these things we're seeing with the economy and all of that, and just all these changes, people in their minds, the energies around in the head is puffy. It's this, it's that. A lot of people talking about not being able to sleep, over-energized, things in their head. Oh, they feel like they're over-energized, like you got too much energy in the air around. Well, it is, because the Earth's atmosphere has been over-energized from continuous X-flare after X-flare after X-flare. By the way, there's another 2.3 X-flare Earth placing that just popped off today, and that'll continue. Like those electrons, protons, they're not like venting off the planet. They're staying in like F layer, maybe E layer, somewhere there, and they're not following the current lines off the planet. They're just getting over energized, and it just continues to stick. I think it takes like 6 weeks, correct me if I'm wrong, for that electrical exit to happen. So if you get another X flare inside that 6 weeks, it just adds on to something that hasn't vented out yet. So with so many X flares, it's just continuous. And it's been the millivolt charge in the entire atmosphere just has an extra, let's say, vibrational quickness to it. I found it hard to explain how plasma might dance in a different frequency. Or if you put a cymatic, if you had a black plate and you put white salt on it and you put a frequency below that, now that's slightly changing, and you can see the visual shape changing at the same time the harmonic is changing, and that's where we sit today. Everything changing in our solar system to the point of you're at that point where it moves from maybe like a star shape into an 8-pointed star. Like you can see the shift and you can see it change. We're there. We are absolutely there. There's this phase state change occurring right now. So the world's going to be incredibly interesting and different to live in. Revolution Radio, again, thanks for letting us broadcast off of you. And for all the people that are being reached right now, consider a donation Revolution Radio if you can. Because, again, was this given and then taketh away? Like it almost appeared that we were coming to the end, like there'd be no more free speech, everything taken away, everything's going to close. And then at the last minute, it didn't happen. So again, it's like, what kind of mind game was played during this time also of society as itself being used as the tool for the mind game? Not an individual country, but a system being changed. And then you start to overlay it with, we're right here at the solar maximum period right now. Okay, it's coincidental they're matching up. Just curious, but welcome back for the second hour, Ransom. I know you were going to go somewhere with the thought before we got off last hour, and I forget what I was talking about. Hopefully you can continue the conversation, but everybody, welcome back. Civilization Cycle.
I don't remember what it was, but I thought we could talk about the 43 monkeys that escaped from South Carolina research facility.
Get them off my back.
Hey, didn't this happen in 2016 as well, like on the interstate where a bunch of monkeys in South Carolina, I think it was there too, that escaped, and there was a big old thing about it. And then, all across the world, we're pushing the monkeypox thing again. It's just like monkey, monkey, monkey in the headlines. But this is actually a big deal. And I know this from personal experience because I used to live right next to one of the primate research facilities. And their opinion was, I don't know what they're telling people here in North Carolina to just shut your windows and your doors.
How helpful is that, dude? I've been around monkeys. They're mean, they're industrious, they're strong, and they can get through something if they want to.
Right. And this is like a pack or a troop of them that escaped together.
A gaggle of monkeys. Oh, it's just terrifying.
They told us to just shoot them.
No. Animal cruelty, you can't do that.
Well, when they come from these facilities, sometimes they're infected with things like HIV, hepatitis.
Well, you don't want that on your front lawn. Jeez.
God knows what's in there.
Go to the neighbor's house, dude.
And in their according to the police statement, the monkeys were in a group of very young females, probably pregnant, that have never been used for testing. An Alpha Genesis spokesperson confirmed that the animals are too young to carry disease, according to the statement. So I guess we don't have to worry about the same thing as last time. But it's just funny that these same things keep coming. I think they were headed for testing instead of had already been tested. At least that's the police statement. Now, hopefully we won't find out, that they have certain extra characteristics. But the advice...
No, but Ransom, how is that like 500 monkeys running around? That's not normal. That's a lot. Like one or two escape in a zoo would make a news, but like 400 and something monkeys running around, that is insane.
Well, this was
20 or 30 of them is dangerous enough by themselves. Oh my gosh, you get 30 monkeys around. Like I was hiking in Taiwan and Indonesia, both, and they know you have something in your backpack. They're coming to get it. Like 30 of them they're terrifying, man. If you're talking 400 and some, that would be like just a big group of scariness. And I'm serious when I say that. You would be, I'll tell you a monkey story later when I was in Pushkar in India, but continue, Ransom.
No, I was just going to say, according to the authorities, these, they're just regular, monkeys that can be violent. They're a little young and everything, but they're telling them to close their windows and their doors. But if you think about, what I was talking about, I live next to this, and they would say that, no, these research monkeys, God knows what they have. They're stronger than you. You don't want them to bite you. They told us, because we were near it, that, just shoot it. That's your best option, especially if it's wanting to interact with you. But these are actually monkeys, and what we were dealing with were primate. Excuse me.
Well, okay.
Apes,
Explain. Can you explain the difference to everybody out there? And I want to be clear also. Could you please explain that?
Well, it's simple. Apes have no tails. They're our closest living relatives, like gorillas, orangutans, chimpanzees, bonobos, etc. These are rhesus monkeys, and they're little mean guys, and they are
rhesus.
The ones.
Those are Caribbean monkeys, yeah.
They're the ones known for stealing your drink, getting drunk, and getting rowdy, and stealing your wallet, and
Yeah, that's the same ones.
Get your sandwich. Over in India, they recently had some guy messing with a little kid, and the monkeys attacked him and saved the day. So monkeys aren't always, the bad guys. But I don't know how much you would believe. I'm just saying, the authorities, when they say don't worry about it, these haven't been tested on. Go about your business.
Just close your windows, okay.
Right. Monkeys know how to throw rocks, by the way, for those window closing people. If they want something, they're going to get it. Hopefully they don't become a new invasive species. I don't know what they would eat in the wintertime in South Carolina. They might, resort to the same thing if they learn from raccoons to just dig in the trash for stuff,
Yeah, I was trying to write down the cities I've had interactions with monkeys, and I've had.
I just hope it doesn't turn into another peanut story, because I wonder, and I am being quite serious. Everybody in the whole United States just awoken to the idea that some stranger somewhere can make a phone call, and groups of law enforcement people and judges and social rejects. Social controllers get together and they will raid your home. So they raided that guy's house for a pet squirrel that he had for 7 years, had a YouTube channel and all these other channels. He was making money for rescue animals and different stuff from the proceeds from the squirrel. And the government came in and, they couldn't understand why the raccoon and the squirrel wanted to bite them, because they were strangers, up in someone's house, and the owners were probably distraught when it happened. So they got bit, so they had to kill them to check them for rabies, which they knew they didn't have because they lived in someone's house. But the point being, the whole nation realized that a group of people could just decide.
Take anything they want, including you. Don't get that out of your mind that they're coming in to get a thing or an animal. You included are in that, can come in and get it anytime category.
Yeah, and I'm going to go so far as to say that the same group of people that took the squirrel would come to your house, knock on the door, and ask you if you have any pew-pews. And you think they wouldn't go in your house if they will go into a house for a squirrel? You think they won't go in your house if something changed dramatically in the government? I don't know. Wartime, martial law.
Yeah, the war, right? That like they would, like they're in Ukraine. They just came and got everybody, and you're coming with us, and you're going to the front. Just like it's almost like the.
Did Peanut win the election, and would that even matter when it comes to the next group of government officials that wanted to go into someplace? Because my experiences over the years in these stories is the government repeatedly does it, and then after the fact, the government will investigate itself and either find out that it did nothing wrong or say, hey, you can't do that anymore. And then, 2 or 3 months later, some other jurisdiction is doing the exact same thing, because they know you can't do nothing preemptively. You have to go to settle it through the courts later. And unfortunately, when it comes to no-knock raids, whether they're looking for a squirrel or looking for something else, you can get killed in the dark in your home at night, thinking people are breaking in and just being in the hallway of your home. It's pretty scary. Are they going to be raiding houses for these monkeys? I don't know. I'm just joking.
Well, I hope no one keeping a pet monkey, a peacock or something. I don't know.
I'm just joking. Obviously, if you see the monkeys, don't mess with them. They're dangerous. They're out of their environment. They're out of their habitat, and they're on the loose. But I'm kind of rooting for them if they really are disease-free monkeys, for freedom.
Sell some merch for the monkeys, bro.
Free the monkeys. No, but it is.
I'm rooting for them. That's a great T-shirt. I'm rooting for them.
The point that I think everybody's missing, because they go right over, don't worry about it. These monkeys don't have diseases. They didn't test on them. Yeah, but what about the idea that they were in your neighborhood in the first place, that there's a testing facility where people live that test on contagious diseases in primates? So primates are the whole group, monkeys, apes, humans, everybody. They're all primates. And a lot of times any disease that messes with one of them can transfer to humans. And that's kind of the basis for a lot of the biological warfare ideas and diseases that somehow come about. I don't know. The question really is should we be hosting these biological testing facilities near people, especially if they're a group that keeps, accidentally letting them out? Because this ain't the first time. You remember, I think it was 2016 as the last time where they got out on the interstate and those were infected monkeys. I don't even know what happened to that.
Don't pick up. No, that's a bad. That's a bad day for hitchhiking right there, man. Yikes, monkeys coming at you. I had a thought and it escaped me. I should have written it down, man, because that break time I should have write things down. But I was trying to read the article as you were talking there at the same time to come with a rebuttal for that. Coming in to take you as a person and some of these things that are written, you are an asset itself that can be brought in and taken out of the house. In an emergency, like if there's a war going on, they're going to you're 18, you're coming. Okay, everybody around there, they're just coming and you're coming with us. We got the war going on. Okay. But then there's other things that can be taken, like the house itself. We need this for, a storage facility or whatnot. I saw a couple things in North Carolina where they come in and they say, we need your warehouse for our storage facility. All your stuff in here got to get out because we're taking it over, kind of stuff. But then you take it a step further here, and while all this is going on and they're setting precedents for you, like you say, in lawfare, where there's got to be some legal precedent set for what happens during these times. And even if you don't get paid, like they come in and say, all right, we're taking the warehouse over. It's some sort of emergency. And then by the time, where's the rent for it for 3 months or 6 months that you were here? Oh, no, you don't get it, or you got to take it up with this other agency to get paid. And then they're like, what? I never heard of that. I don't have any paperwork for that. These types of things happening. Like the tokenized world here is where I was going with it, because BlackRock's plan to own the fractionalized world. See, this is the thing that's changing right now, too. Now, while all these surface things are happening, everything we talked about prior up to this point, what I would consider like a surface level event happening that can intertwine in itself sometimes to larger matrix or matrices, small in and out, different distractions and interference patterns out there. But this thing is the undercurrent of it all for the future of the system. If you want to talk about the system, as we were alluding that it was going to continue to move forward regardless of who's in power, these just general societal shifts that have a plan to them for the whole world literally to move, is moving again here. So the thing is, talking about Bitcoin and the exchange traded funds, you come down into tokenizing assets. So this fractionalized world, this fractionalized place, the speediness of money that shall increase. So if there's a bank bail-in, the value of your house and your car and everything that you have that has a note against it, that you borrowed money or on a loan to pay for it, house, car, boat, whatever it is, doesn't matter, watch. They're going to bail that in and they're going to own it. And then they can assign a value to it of like $1 million. And then they can sell that to an investor. And then that investor can claim it and say, all right, great, I want to hold it as an investment. Or they own it. They own the deeds, everything, because it's a smart contract that is, the value of it is tied to the ownership of that asset, your house, your car, your land. Each one of those has a value on it that could be bought and sold for a price. That's all wrapped into this one contract in itself. And this is what they would do. Now, not just your farm or your place, but bundle 1,000 of those together or 10,000 of those together, instead of it being a million or 10 million, it's suddenly 10 billion. And then another oligarch from somewhere might buy that bundled, or just a regular bank that's investing buys that bundled mortgage. And if somebody has the time to go through and unwind those layers to see what they own as the assets in there, they can claim those. Like a company overseas can go, well, we bought all these properties and David's property was included in that bundle. And even though I'm still living here, they could come by and go, no, we own this thing. See, you're on the smart contract, ironclad. You got bailed in, and we bought that fractionalized asset package from BlackRock, and we own all the property here, and we're going to claim it right now because between your neighbors and yours and yours and yours, there's 180 acres out here. Plus, we got and we can make a big farm field, and we can farm 200 acres of grain right here, but y'all's house is in the way, and we own them anyway, so you're out of here. That's the world that this is moving to in terms of fractionalization. Now, after the bank bail-ins occur, because this all works on the system changing. And everybody's heard about central bank digital currencies. And we're all looking at the meetings in Kazan just last month that had really, they put out a business plan, for the best term, for what they wanted to do for trade payments, this sort of thing, through the BRICS nations, and having a gold backing and announcing silver also as a bimetallic or even trimetallic, as I've said, I'm just regurgitating, trimetallic system of also platinum or palladium inside that mix. That's the basic currency, like 40%. And the rest of it is trading, or they try to trade amongst themselves. It's making a big dent in the global trade of dollars, not by 1/1000th of a percent, but by actual multiple measurable percentages declining. Ransom, I got to get you that metric. Decline it's always been a little bit declining, but over the last, say, 12, 15 years, it's really started to drop off. Like, you could see the trend way before BRICS had aligned itself. You could, if you were looking in the future and know this was going to be a planned time of change with a magnetic field shift, and this was all a planned time right now, solar maximum, at the last solar maximum before dropping off into an extreme low of solar activity, the perception of humanity changes. So everything needs to change at the same time. And it's going to be problems growing enough food during this transition too. So the complexities start to get kind of, spread out a bit. But it's all going to come down to, where's this new world moving to with money? Because it's all happening right now, and you can't tell me all the change for everything that we know is all changing simultaneously right now. All of it at the same time that's too much for me to believe it's not forced. Then why now? But, this whole thing of where this system is moving to is, you really don't own anything. It's all going to be on a ledger. Now, you can live there as long as you want until somebody claims on it and comes and says, get off the property. Or the town. Because, Ransom, you'd mentioned before, talking about neighborhoods. Well, the new big thing was using neighborhoods. They were already flattened and graded out for each home anyway. So companies will come in and buy entire neighborhoods, and then they'll bulldoze down all the houses, and they'll just put up data centers there. Because they already have the main trunk lines coming in for sewage, water, electric, fiber optic, for that whole thing, for that whole for a whole neighborhood. Like, that's your trunk line that feeds out. All right, so everything's already pre-installed, basically. That whole land being graded down in itself on the cost of the project is worth buying the neighborhood. And everything's already there. So this is the biggest trend, and I have seen many a video where they show before, after, before, after, before, after, before, after. It wasn't literally a neighborhood. And afterward, it was a giant data storage warehouse, just a big, giant rectangle over what you would consider is a neighborhood. Like, neighborhood for me is pretty big. You had to ride a bike or walk, and it takes a minute to get over to your friends' houses or acquaintances' houses. It's not like 2 steps. It's really like minutes of walking, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get down. But think about that just as going from one side to the other on the short way. So what's happening with why do they need so much of the data? And then again, it rolls back to your central bank digital currency will probably be based on some behavior pattern that you can accept, buy, sell, trade. Look what's going on over there in China. There's a behavioral pattern modification going on where you can't do this. You do that, you're not getting anything. You stay in line, you get everything at, normal levels again. Like all this is getting tied in. And that's the thing. I don't care who won right now. This whole momentum of this societal movement, is this still moving? That's the whole problem. Or, I don't know. Is it a breakaway? Is it a problem? How would you describe that? I mean, it is a shift in motion, so discernible right now. It's like you can cut it like you're cutting brie cheese, man. It's that dense to be able to see that it's in play right now.
Well, the good thing for us is that the $215 billion data center industry, which is a lot if you think about that, $215 billion. I think cancer is like a $90 billion industry, but $215 billion, and they have a problem. They have to cool these things. So there's not going to be too many built in the desert. And matter of fact, most of those companies are now going to offshore, meaning that they put it in this giant tank and then sink it off the coast. And that's kind of where they're going. So you can look for these guys to be taking a port and beach property more so than neighborhoods. I mean, just in the nature of the business that they have to cool it. Smaller data centers are going to be everywhere, though. And that's kind of, I think, what you're more talking about, a neighborhood sized, like a super center, like a Walmart. And in there is the beginnings of one of the scariest things imaginable when it comes to the Internet of Things. And that's a Stasi-style AI-run censorship hub that filters all of the data before it leaves the neighborhoods. I mean, literally, like from town to town. And they already have this set up in reverse. The town I live in, there's no fiber. There is fiber optic cables that have been laid, and they're all in all the neighborhoods, but they don't use those. And that actually was done in the early 2000s. I don't know, around 2005, I think, is when they were doing it. And they don't even use that. So I don't know if someone else is using that, but they're not using it. Instead, what they're doing is the internet service provider downtown is getting a relay satellite link. So if the satellite's gone, there's no information here. There's literally no internet at all, because everybody gets it from the same source. And they're switching over to the cable channels and everything being this way. So there will be some kind of data center in each and every town everywhere. But we're not talking about the massive processing things that Microsoft, Google, and all of these other things. I just actually happened to watch a whole thing about this. They're building these giant tanks that are about the size of like a large submarine. That's full of these servers and stuff, and they're using that to sink it so they don't have to pay for air conditioning. Another places that you would be looking out for these things would be in really cold areas where it never really gets hot in the summer. So Canada, most of Northern Europe, if you lived over there, they're going to be building an unprecedented amount of these things everywhere. And that's just something that's going to be happening in the background. Now, the problem with that is depending on who your government is, they will have complete and utter access to all data coming in and all data going out. So this means internet ghettos of areas where you can only get certain information just because it won't come through the filter. And
I think we're already there, Ransom. I think we're there for sure already at this point.
Well, they have it, the backbone of this set up. The problem is that some of the nations are not going for it. But you saw right down in Brazil recently that there was a little fighting back with the X platform because the Brazilian government wanted to control all the information, and they didn't like the fact that X provided opinions and real-time data from anywhere in the world. And, China has already filtered out, I don't know, I think 95% of anything coming from the outside world. However, it still trickles in, and which is going to be another booming industry, is the black market data That's already set up in a way, but they're going to have to build it outside of this new skeleton of a network that they're making. And things are about to be weird. And this is what I have a bad feeling about when I tell people when they get, very optimistic about politics, is that the programs are not stopping. And you can mark my words, Trump might go into a more positive pro-American stance, but in reality, all of the people he's going to fill up the cabinets with are the same old deep state, neocon, leftist. And this is what confuses a lot of people, that the neoconservatives and the Marxists are on the same page. They're on the same page. They want the same things. And ultimately, that is to collapse and destabilize any remaining old earth empires like Russia, any country that's claiming sovereignty. They want to collapse that so that they can have their world government that has one internet, one monetary system at the top that they'll split into two, so that people think that there's a competition going, in the same way that they do the right-left paradigm in politics in the U.S., where you get the same thing no matter what you vote for. It might change a little bit on certain topics, but those are the topics that you're allowed to argue about, that you're allowed to talk about. We're not talking about whether or not we want to complete technological renaissance going on behind our back with the deep state setting up all these surveillance and data centers everywhere, regardless of who the people are in control of things. And I think that's going to keep rolling out, and so will the war propaganda. When you got to get scared, though, is when all of the countries, like they did in 2020, all agree on something that's the same thing. Something that they all agree with is the truth. And that's a weird thing when you know how countries are supposedly non-trusting of each other and have intel hubs and, intel agents that are doing espionage to find out what the other people are doing. All of that seems to be over because it's all a trickle down from the top. And I'm starting to wonder how long that they're going to stretch this illusion of the 1990s into the future, while the digital and nanotech revolutions go well beyond the perceivable I guess domain of the human being. At some point, it's going to be where you can't even perceive what's going on. And like you said, I think that's like on the verge right now, which makes you wonder what's coming next. What will they all agree with that our reality is next? And I think it is inevitably a global war, so that they can erode the idea of nationalism. And they're going to use the excuses of things in the past to do that.
I think they're going to break everybody's mind. Like, the way I look at it is, it's going to be laid bare for all to see that it's fake if nothing happens. Because to win this much clean sweep, everything, just so many people were like, and we're so tired of this, it needs to change. And now a full carte blanche to change it. With the will of the people, with every inch of the government you control now, everything can change as fast as it needs to change to get back to some normalcy or normalcy for you grammar police out there. At that point, if there's massive change and we can actually see it and taste it and touch it, that is that fathomable of a change, you can actually say, wow, that was hugely different before and after, like those flood maps that you look at. Speaking of Valencia, again, the floods there. Look at those before and after maps. Was the same thing. It should be that discernible with that much change that you've noticed it, that improved your life, that made your life better. When you do that before and after photo of the 4 years that you're like, oh, that was staggeringly differently. Wow, so much changed. So much got done. So much got dismantled. Right? But if you're coming 4 years later and you go, nothing really changed, then everybody that's alive right now will notice that's an illusion. So what do you do with a completely broken, at least Americans, society that sees through the illusion that it was all BS? That because you're going to see it clear as day. Either something happens or nothing happens. And see, this is if there's very little change that occurs, everybody, I think, would understand that it truly was the illusion. They might promise you this, and it's all the status quo for that same underlying current of change that is pulling us to, like you say, this global corptocracy or some sort of global digital payment system that's above country. Ransom, I was done.
No, I was actually about to ask you.
Poetically finishing, man. It's above country.
Right here in New Mexico, it's snowing. We got a blizzard coming in that's covering.
Yeah, I saw that. Can I ask you, Art, on my news feed just pinged up here and it says 4 feet of snow to hit New Mexico. So can you tell us what's going on there?
It looks like a nice cold. And notice, what does your thing say? Does it say winter storm? Because this was my point.
No, it says 4 feet of snow. 4 feet of snow to hit New Mexico.
Because
warnings issued. That's all I get.
I was looking at all the headlines talking about this moving in, and they keep using the verbiage winter storm. The problem is it's November and it's not winter right now. It's fall. So it's a fall storm that's dumping 4 feet of snow.
That's way early, and that's the same thing, like way early storms.
Yeah, what's really bad about this is I think a lot of these places already had, like as far as Roswell, Ruidoso, around where I live, they just got trashed with major floods. I mean, we're, just like you guys were seeing from the hurricane, we had a little taste of that out here in the desert. Massive flash floods. It was washing cars and, buildings off the foundation, and the entire main street of Roswell was a giant river. People were hiding on the roof. And I had just got through telling my family that we are situated in a similar situation, that if a massive amount of water dumped on the Sacramento Mountains, which is only 3 miles away from us, where it goes from 4,995 feet up to 11,000 feet in a matter of like a quarter of a mile. It just, goes right up. We're on the edge of that.
Right on the range. How majestic, man. That is a majestic place to be with nature that giant in front of you, man.
It is cool living in a poverty-stricken ghetto where you get to look at those beautiful mountains next to you where the rich people live up there in cottages and stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But I was telling them that we're in that situation, that if it dumped enough water on this west side of the mountains, we'd be in the same situation. There's nothing to stop the water. We're all on flat desert land out here in the valley. So if any kind of flash flood of that size that hit Roswell happened, it'd wash half our town away. And so now they're going to be dealing with blizzard-like conditions immediately after weird monsoon late in the year, like way late in the year type weather. And I was telling my kid, it's weird that we live in this spot, because anytime a thunderstorm starts developing here, I can look at the map and I know that a tornado is going to pop out in Oklahoma from the same exact front. So we know like 3 days in advance when people are going to die in Tornado Alley, because this, moisture starts developing here. It turns into a thunderstorm. It blows across eastern New Mexico and western Texas. And by the time it's in Oklahoma and around there, it's dropping tornadoes, hail, lightning. And just the other day, we had some really good-sized marble hail that came out of nowhere. And it's all late in the season, but now it's just about to flip back over to extreme cold. So we never really got a fall. It just went from extreme hot. We barely turned off the air conditioner, like I think 2 weeks ago, and it's already time to light up the heater because, it's reaching down to 40 and 35 degrees to start snowing. So we might have a nice global warming filled winter. And I was wanting to know what you thought about that, because they're labeling all these early storms as winter storms, even though it's in the middle of fall.
Happy holidays. Here we go. I'm looking at the map. I'm looking at this looping GFS map here. It says total snowfall. Oh, and by the way, 4 feet of snow would convert to roughly 4 inches of water. So think of it as a 4-inch rainstorm coming down frozen. Now, rain is going to run off way faster, but this stuff's going to melt. And imagine if it's 4 and then 40 feet for the year. I mean, we're looking for extremes this year. So some of these rain events that we've had, 25 feet of snow, like Valencia just had 25 inches of rain in a single day. Now convert that to 25 feet of snow. Like if this were to happen this winter, if this does do the rainfall equivalent in a snowstorm, we are going to see something that we thought was never, ever even humanly possible, that people would be that cut off that they couldn't get out because it snowed 25 feet in a day. Like you would have to wait out the winter. And if it was in a major city, like that would be insane. But as I'm looking here, I see New Mexico and the green that's rising, looks like the storm front heads are coming out of that. Like the highest plume there, the highest in altitude on the cloud tops is right there where New Mexico touches the panhandle of Oklahoma. That makes sense?
Yes, that's exactly where I was talking about, eastern New Mexico and western Texas there, and you get the panhandle.
Yeah. Well, the panhandle of Texas is right there, which creates the little panhandle that comes off of Oklahoma. I know there's a name for that. Forgive me, I just forgot what it was.
Yeah. What's weird about this though is like I was saying, we were just having really what they were calling record-breaking temperatures, even though they weren't really record-breaking. They were equivalent to 50 years ago, 100 years ago. But now all of a sudden, I don't know if the audience can see that. All of this dots all the way. So right now, the eastern whole half of Colorado and most of the north and center of New Mexico is snowing and has been snowing. And it's blowing over. And right about at Amarillo, it goes from cold to hot. And then you have all of these thunderstorms in the middle of Texas that are about to hit Oklahoma. And that's kind of what I was talking about here for the last, I'm going to say 2 weeks. I could just look outside. If it rains here, people die in Oklahoma. It's just a weird thing. And we happen to be, like I said, right on this mountain range where the temperature difference is like giant. So I'm here in the valley over here. It's 43 degrees. And then just north of me, not even
I got
25
just
minutes,
north of you
it's
here
25
for the
degrees.
warning. Right here, I got the National Weather Service feed up.
Right. Yeah. So it's 25 degrees, just a little bit north to me. And down here, it's 45 degrees. And just yesterday or the day before that, they were talking about the high temperatures, the record-breaking high temperatures. And now we got all this nice global warming goodness that's blowing in around here. And let me tell you,
8-inch snow drifts possible there, Ransom. 8-inch snow drifts. Now, that's not accumulation. That's drifting snow being blown by the 80-mile-an-hour winds. That's a little bit different.
Right. Yeah. And that's caused it probably Interstate 40. You're going to see a bunch of accidents that goes through.
Yeah.
Albuquerque.
Ice warnings right there. Yeah. If you're an I-25 too, going up toward Raton, they're at least 1/10 of an inch of ice going to be on the roads. Ice warnings out, everybody. That's some ice is like a dangerous one to be driving in. 2 to 5 inches of snow in the Sandia Crest area. 12 inches of snow up there.
Yeah,
2 to 5 feet of snow going over what's that, Taos and
Santa Fe, Albuquerque, all that stuff. What's really bad about it?
Yeah, right up near Durango, running that whole line for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. It's just wow.
So if you look at the southern half of the state, everything below Albuquerque it rarely ever drops down
You're
below
right.
20
There's
degrees.
Nothing there. That's crazy.
But it's going to this time, and guess what? All of those towns, they're going to have pop wells, plumbing, all of that stuff. So probably billions of dollars worth of stuff if it freezes and penetrates. If it warms up the next couple of days after that, it probably won't do that. But if it's the last time we actually had a severe storm here in this valley, no one was prepared. The whole valley froze. Everybody's pipes were broke because they don't get used to getting down much below 20 degrees. So when it starts getting in the single digits or below zero, everybody's screwed. Home Depot's happy, though.
Well, I wanted to say that if you were going to split up the state, let's say equally into four other squares, it seems to be that top, north and east quadrant that's actually making a very clean-looking square in itself from all the winter warnings and watches and everything. It seems to be centered in that literal corner of the state. Literal corner.
Yeah.
I'll screen grab and send you the map. We got a minute here, so let me do that to you. You're gonna freak out when you see this one. Yeah, you just described that, and it's interesting how it's so precise in its placement of where all these warnings are. It's like literally only in that one corner. So for me, you've seen many a more a map than I have. So let me gonna put it right in the downloads. And I'm talking to myself so I can walk I already did that one. Ransom, I want to send this to you so you can look at it. I would like to, if I could ask you to respond with it. I'm sending it through the personal Skype right now to respond to it, because I want to know if this is a normal map that I'm looking at or if this is something strange. Because this square, like here you go, I just sent it. The quarter of the state being so perfect where the warnings are. It's kind of weird to look like that. Like things aren't usually squares in nature.
Those are counties. That they have that boxed off because of counties. That's what that is. So the warnings just go out in the counties, and then they have, that is weird.
Yeah, but it's all clustered right there in that top corner of the state, right? In that northeast quadrant there.
Right. Nothing's really happening right there right now, though. That already blew through. But they're cold there. But there might be more developing. Let's see here. I'm going to save this and show everybody.
Yeah, okay.
else.
So this is off social media feed. So this is slower than what you're experiencing.
Yeah, so most of that has blown over into the eastern part of the state in Texas, though, where that red area is at. It's dumping snow right now. According to the radar, it's blue and purple right there. And then that's where the line of another temperature change happens right there. And that's kind of what I was saying, is all those people over here in Oklahoma City, all the way to Wichita, they're probably going to have a lot of tornadoes in the next, probably tomorrow and tomorrow night. From this storm, it's going to be cold blowing into those warmer areas.
So that you found that relationship then. So you've unlocked one of those pieces of the puzzle. It doesn't happen every day, but frequently enough where you could forecast out 24 hours in advance on a single spot on the planet and only a few times a year. Are you saying something like that?
No, it's general any summer, but the storms seem to be, coming from our direction here late in the season, but they're still doing the same thing they usually do.
The same pattern.
It's just if we have thunderstorms here, then Oklahoma, Kansas, and past that, they usually have tornadoes. It's just like inevitable. I show my kid all the time, look, there's that same storm that was raining on us yesterday.
So from Ryan
Home Depot is going to be happy.
Well, I mean, how much does this really stop? It seems like the kids are going to get a snow day or something out of this. I mean, how happy are they because of that?
Oh, they're definitely going to be happy because we don't ever get snow days in this state unless you live up north there by Colorado. But yeah, if you look at kind of the map all the way down at the bottom, we have the Sacramento Mountains down here by the border. And like I said, it's 25 degrees right there. That's only like 3 miles away if you went straight up in the air, because you can't do that. So you have to 45-minute drive there. But still, it's really only 3 miles away that it goes from almost 50 degrees to 25 degrees. All these people down in the south all the way, and I'm looking at the temperature right now. It's showing really low 26 degrees out in the bottom by Deming. In the western portion by Arizona, there's 14 degrees in Arizona, heading west towards Phoenix right now. So this is a really cold blast blowing through in fall. Not record. I don't think it's probably record breaking. I'm sure this has happened many a times, but Home Depot and Lowe's are going to be so happy tomorrow when all these people are going to go buy all of this stuff because they weren't prepared for this cold. Oh, wow. 9 degrees out there in the desert.
You could seal up something real quick when it's that cold, can't you?
Yeah, so these areas this far south aren't really used to that, or at least especially not this early in the year.
Yeah, because it looks like even Albuquerque is going to get extreme winter storm impacts. That's okay. It is what it is.
Yeah,
but these extremes are going to continue to. No, go ahead. Like for coming all the way down in Albuquerque and give it like extreme winter storm impact. I mean, that's how rare is that?
It looks like, well, this is all Rocky Mountains.
That's from the
right next to that.
KRQE News 13 forecast through Friday says extreme winter storm impacts Albuquerque.
I think in about 2 hours, or not even that. It says 2.76 inches is falling of snow right next to Santa Fe, and that's on the west side, so that's not actually on the mountains. So that's out there where everybody lives in the valleys and stuff. They're getting blanketed.
Does that get all foggy there, too, with that temperature inversion? Like, if you're driving at certain times of the year, is it foggy along that boundary between warm and cold?
Yeah, I've seen that. It's usually early in the morning, though.
Early in the morning, of course. Yeah, it's fog.
But
early in the morning, but it does occur even out in the desert there.
It looks like if it stays the same temperature, Amarillo, Lubbock, and all that stuff's about to have a winter storm also, right after they got flooded.
Yeah, well, all that stuff is going to continue to move east. So you just need to see where it's going next. Because if it's a cutoff low, see, that was the thing about Valencia was a cutoff low. And we've seen a couple other places in the world, too, that were cutoff lows, like Helene after that became a cutoff low sandwiched in the high. So the rest of the main storm system's gone, except it continues to churn by itself as a mini vortex. Right? There's so many of these storms that we're seeing across the world are having this same kind of fingerprint to them. So as it moves, as a cutoff low continuing, it is going to be, I don't know if it's going to reach all the way out here to Tennessee. I haven't seen anything on our forecast of this storm reaching Tennessee, but definitely a little bit further over. Like, what kind of cold damage, or what is this going to do to the crops that are still not harvested in like Oklahoma and Texas?
Oh, they're done if it freezes and it gets down to in the 20s like it looks like it might. I mean, I don't know if this is going to fizzle out and warm up, but I imagine right when that hits that warm air, you're going to hear all kinds of tornado stories through northern Texas, Oklahoma, and the southern Wichita area, Kansas, I mean.
Yeah, okay, so excuse me, they've named this the Winter Storm Anya, A-N-Y-A. So if anybody wants to do your research, you can do it on this if you're going to plow through the weather advisories here, so you can see the area we're talking about. And what about Socorro? It looks like it's going to get hit by the winter storm too down there.
Yeah, that's all up and down the Rio Grande Valley, so that's real close to Albuquerque, all of that stuff, which is low-lying river where they grow a lot of stuff. It's not really in the mountains. You don't hit the Sandias until you're right next to Albuquerque, and then Santa Fe is used to wintertime type weather, I mean, because they're right in the Rocky Mountains there. But I don't think that, if it stays cold, the people east of us are not going to like it out in Amarillo. It's going to just drop. It was warm, and now it's going to be cold the next day, so that's fun. And I wouldn't advise driving on Interstate 40 that goes through Amarillo, Taos, Albuquerque, all of that stuff right now.
Yeah, because I-40 ends up over here in East Tennessee. I-40 and I-75 connect here in East Tennessee, and they run together parallel for 16 miles or something before they split off again.
Yeah, it says
two biggest interstates in the United States, I-75 going north-south, and then I-40 east-west.
Tucumcari is getting right now 3.6 inches of snow falling on them.
I'm at the National Weather Service, where I actually put in New Mexico winter storm just as a general before I go to Albuquerque, NWS, which is National Weather Service, to get there. So I'm just curious how big of an event. 8 minutes ago, Denver declares the state of emergency as winter storm, thousands without power. Looks probably 4 or 5 inches on the roads. But the cars driving, looks like they've already pounded most of that down, where it's more slushy with 4 inches or something on the sides of the roads that's accumulated. But people driven through it and turned it into that slush, which, by the way, for the record, I do not like walking through. Even if you have boots on and just a little bit of that icy, slushy, nasty road water goes in. Oh, man, your boot, the poor boot.
It says right now they
that's all I got
30,000 people out of power.
A 30,000-foot view of the wet boot and slush.
And I think most of those are in Indian country and San Juan County up in the north, and Rio Arriba County. They're out of power. Yeah, so that's all those people that live, in the southern Rocky Mountains. They know what to do. They don't need the power. They all probably have cook stoves going already. Actually, this is the most power outages is up around Diamonds area, about the New Mexico, Colorado border up there. I think this was worse earlier, but so right now there's only 30,000 out of power from the winter storm here in New Mexico. We might not have had a show if it would have went south. I would have been out of power, but it didn't.
Yeah, I pulled up the NWS feed, which is way, way, way more professional than putting in just the search terms. For anybody, by the way, when I do a lot of information search, I do the general term first, just to see what is out there. and then I can get some like names of towns or whatever, and then I can hone in on where the National Weather Service center is, just to see what, if it's such a large event where so much social media is covering it, before going to the professional feeds here, which show you, I mean, really very cleanly and very precise on where it's going to. And all those are freezing temperatures, even down to Glenwood. And what do you go across the border there in Glenwood? Like, if that's a crop area from where are you saying? Oh, there's Chaco Canyon. Nice. Like any of those crops that are still in the field, they're absolutely into hard freeze, like beyond hard freeze. 24 degrees Fahrenheit, that's, and 17 degrees Fahrenheit, 19 degree Fahrenheit, those crops are ruined. Those are definitely stranded crops in the field. Unless you can get them up, but they're not going to be dried and they're done. They're at maturation. You got to pull it right now.
Yeah, I think that would only be probably Oklahoma and around there that still have crops in. The Rio Grande Valley, I imagine that they were, you know, paying attention to this and pulled up whatever they had a couple days ago, if they were smart. Whatever was left growing there. Yeah, but this happens every time, and then people act like they never have driven on snow, and there'll be crashes and pileups.
Yeah,
all on Interstate 40 there, which they should be used to.
I need to check the phone while I'm driving in the snow.
Yeah, check the weather, Bobby. Bam.
Don't do it, folks. Don't do it. Do not drive and text in the snow. It's bad enough in the rain. On the snow is a no-no. Hey, that's okay.
Well, I was going to say
Dr. Seuss thing there, man.
And then we got down south, Raphael headed towards Mexico. So I don't know if that's going to barge into the Mexico City area or all of a sudden go north into Texas, but that ought to be interesting here in about a week too.
The cows look real deep in the snow there. How do you say this? Rocilanda or Rocilanda or Rociada? Rociada.
Sounds good enough to me, man.
Okay, great. New Mexico, cows are buried. They can't barely walk. The snow is above the chest of a cow. Where they're kind of stuck and they're really like barely wading through it because it's impeding their motion. It's so thick. Like cows can't really walk. And as far as you can see, it's just a white desert out there. So cows, they're going to huddle together to try to stay warm. But they're definitely, that's a lot of snow right there. Cows are powerful, believe it or not. Be wary of cows. They get respect. They're like easy animals in the field. Oh, fuck you in a second. But thank you for watching. CivilizationCycle.com, David DuByne. Much job. CivilizationCycle.com. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Revolution.